Welcome to the live stream, folks. We're viewing the sun at 193 angstroms. We see 0 sunspots. We see a very low 10.7 centimeter radial flux all the way down at 69. And a couple coronal holes in the Earth-facing region right now. Very, very low solar activity. Let's look at more views. Here's a 304 angstroms view, which gives you a good indication of where the filaments are and what their behavior is like. And talk about a boring solar disk, not a lot going on there. We're going to move on to more data in a moment, but first, let's talk cycling. Let me sum it up from a comment from Oddball.
Tank's broken and they're trying to fix it.
Then why the hell aren't you up there helping them?
So I don't like to work on bikes. I'm not a very good bike mechanic. And considering the kind of technology that's out there nowadays, you may want to have a trained professional to work on your bike, especially if it costs several $1,000s.
I only ride them. I don't know what makes them work.
I only ride them. I don't know what makes them work. Becky Quinn, owner of the Velo Shop, definitely knows what makes them work, as she spent 22 years in the Pro Peloton. She's also an expert bike fit specialist. So head to theveloshop.net, buy a bike, and get a free bike fit out of the deal. Also, please sponsor me for my 2019 cycling campaign, as I'm raising $5,500 by May 1st, and I'm only $5,475 behind the goal. Let's head back to the sun and look at real-time solar wind. And we are looking at the wrong data. This is yesterday's data. All right. Let's hit refresh. No, that's okay. We'll wait. Oh, I see. Okay, that was today's data. All right, cool. So we see a weakening magnetic field here as the BT approaches the 0 line. And the BZ is also converging on 0. So that's a good sign for earthquake prediction, as negative BZ is associated with earthquake risk. So back here, this was an earthquake risk. This is not really an earthquake risk. Now, we see a shifting phi angle. That's something to watch throughout the day, as a 180-degree phi angle is associated with earthquake risk. That's the coronal hole magnetic connection. Now, we are currently in a solar wind stream here from a coronal hole, and here's the telltale signs of that. You can see the density went all the way up to 24. About 24, 25 or so there, solar wind density. And then it dropped down, as it typically does, as the velocity increased. So we're in that coronal hole wind stream right now, and that is the cause of the small perturbations in the KP index yesterday. We're going to skip solarham.net, although it should be in your favorites, as it's a great data source. Next, we're going to look at the planets today to show you where you're located. Milky Way galaxy team for the win. So there you have the location of your planets. And I forgot to break out the Epic pen today. All right, so there's your planetary locations. We're going to advance this 1 week. That's where they'll be in 1 week. And before we move on, I just want to let you know that stereo A is located around this area and stereo B is located around this area. You'll understand why I'm talking about stereo A and stereo B in one moment. you new viewers. All right, so the Earth's catching up to the gas giants, Mercury's catching up to Venus, and Mars is feeling a little lonely. Next, we're going to look at stereo A, their coronagraph, just to check and see if there are any coronal mass ejections headed toward the Earth. And we're fairly sure they're not, as we haven't had any kind of flares. But we put the data up daily anyway, because for you new viewers out there, it is possible to have a coronal mass ejection with no solar flares. Anyway, there's the most recent data out of the stereo A Core 2 space weather beacon. Quiet on the interplanetary magnetic field front. Next, we'll look at the Gong 2, as we do most days. There's the current heliospheric magnetic environment, and we do actually see some complexity forming in this area. So that's something to watch. And we're going to look at the colored magnetogram at the end of the video, so stay tuned. Otherwise, a pretty quiet magnetic environment. Here are the signets. Your basic signet spiral here, showing you the inner planets as well as things like stereo A and B and Spitzer and OSIRIS-REx and the Parker Solar Probe. And we can't wait to see data on this Parker Solar Probe, as it has recently completed its second perihelion. So it's exciting stuff. I would note there's not a lot going on here. So let's move on. How about if we head to spaceweathernews.com to crunch a little more data. So thanks for joining us, folks, as we crunch that data. So we see the X-ray flux is utterly flatlined. We saw a big spike in the magnetometer yesterday where it was up over 150 nanotesla. And that was associated with that high density portion of the coronal hole wind stream. So the protons were all the way up to 24 protons per cubic centimeter, and that brought the KP index all the way up to 3. Not a big increase, but there you go. Now it's back down to 1, and it'll probably stay around that range. We're not expecting a KP 0, at least until the coronal hole wind stream ends. There's your electron flux with your characteristic dip when the coronal hole wind stream arrives in full force. We see no charging hazards, and we see a fairly normal looking F2 layer today. There's your aurora forecasts, looking a little weak despite the wind stream coming in. We're going to skip the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard and look at the total electron content, which should be pretty low. We use this to forecast GPS errors, folks, as the GPS satellite has to communicate with ground-based systems through a lot of electrons. There is actually a significant anomaly right in the Caribbean, and as this plays through, you'll see that. Right at the end, right there. Significant anomaly in the South Atlantic. Also an anomaly off of the coast of Baja. So not a lot of GPS errors, but we do see some anomalies in the electron content. We'll look at the magnetosphere movies. And it looks like we have the up-to-date info here, so we'll play through all 3 of these as my voice gets a breather. So there's the velocity. Move that down so you can see the slider. We do see a low velocity zone there on the meridional plane view, associated with the magnetotail. Here's the density. And we do see some density fluctuations there, as you would expect. I would have liked to have seen this one yesterday when we had that density spike, but hey, you can't win them all. And you can't access this data afterwards. So we thank University of Michigan for the geospace model. And the pressure is looking pretty normal right now, and that's due to the increased solar wind velocity, as it's about 100 and 120 kilometers per second faster than it was yesterday. And let's move on to the ground perturbations, as we usually do around this time. First, we'll look at the view from the poles, where those field-aligned Birkeland current streams arrive at your planet. Greetings, Earthling. This is how it works. These are the locations where the current passes through the planet in both directions. You are looking down the Z field of the Earth right now from both ends. And here's the view. All right, it's not cooperating. There we go. There's the view from the globe. And we'll let that play all the way through. Pardon the scrolling. So we don't really see any huge perturbations here. Keep in mind, this is the delta B measurement. We're looking at changes in the B field. If you're not familiar with magnetohydrodynamics, the B field is the field that passes through a magnet. For instance, the sun's B field is the interplanetary magnetic field around which planets orbit. Next, we'll look at earthquakes, as there's a lot of material to get through. So we're going to just give you a rundown here. We see a 4.1 in Chile. We see a 4.3 in Iraq. We saw one in Oman yesterday, so there's a little uptick in the Middle East. A 6.0 south of the Fiji Islands, one of the largest quakes in the past week. And it's at 385 kilometers depth. So that is a big time indicator. Fiji heads up, New Zealand heads up, Tonga heads up. That is that's the kind of quake that suggests a larger quake at the surface is going to occur. And we're talking about a 7 magnitude earthquake there, folks. So have an earthquake plan, be an asset, not a liability in the event of a disaster. Here's another deep quake right in the same place at 551.6 kilometers. Here's a 4.5 in Alaska. 4.4 in New Zealand. And let's zoom in on that one. It looks like it's right on the island. Actually on land. So there you go. Shout out New Zealand. If anybody felt that one, please leave a comment. And we've got to refresh because I have no idea how to navigate back to where I was. This is not an easy site to navigate, folks, so please bear with me. We're trying to make the stream as visually pleasant as possible. All right, now where were we? All right. So we see a 4.7 at the Philippines also, a 4.6 in Russia, 5.9 at India. That one probably caused some damage. Let's move on to the next one here, Mayotte, located right in the African Rift Zone. So it looks like there's an earthquake uptick continuing into today, folks. Yesterday and today, earthquake uptick. heads up earthquake-prone zones. The 7-magnitude earthquake drought continues for areas such as this. If you're here, have an earthquake plan. Earthquake 7 droughts end in, guess what? Magnitude 7 earthquakes. Here's a 4.9 at Papua New Guinea. Here's a 5.0 in Indonesia at depth, 108 kilometers. Here's a 4.9 in Indonesia, also at depth, 109 kilometers. 4.9 at the Philippines. 4.6 off the coast of Kamchatka. 5.0 at Bristol Island. And that's the South Sandwich Islands, a very far south quake. 4.5 at Russia, 4.8 at Chile, and no other quakes of note. Next, we'll look at pressure maps. We did see some anomalous lows yesterday. Let's see how they've behaved. So the one over here by Indonesia did not behave as the prediction forecasted. Oh wait, we're way ahead here. Let's go to the current time. I don't know how we got to Monday, but let's see what happened. All right. Here's the current data, folks. I don't know why Windy advanced that. I did not press play. So there's the current situation. We see a double anticyclone off the coast of California here, really off the coast of Oregon. When you see a clockwise rotation like that, folks, that's an anticyclone, and that is associated with a pressing on the atmosphere, high pressure, positive charge, whatever you want to call it. We see this double low in the central Indian Ocean here. That's quite anomalous, and that's been sitting there for a while. Anyway, we don't want to make this video too long. There is a low over New Zealand right now. It's not a super powerful one. Let's just see if that develops further. I doubt it will because it's surrounded by high pressure. So here's the forecast for the rest of the day. And that low is slowly moving from west to east, which is not an anomalous movement. We expect these things to move west to east. If you see one moving vice versa or standing still, that's an anomalous low. And let's move on to volcanoes. So we'll head to volcanodiscovery.com and run down the list. We see Abico and producing a 10,000-foot ash plume, so uptick at Abico. Tacona with a 7,000-foot ash plume, on the list for a long time. Revenador with a 16,000-foot ash plume. We don't recommend pole vaulting over that. And Nevados de Chilean with sporadic weak emissions. So a slight volcanic downtick as the earthquake uptick continues. Please support us on Patreon if you haven't already. Be our 4th patron and help to support the channel. There will be some exclusive content on Patreon eventually, but we're building a lot of things at the same time, and we are punching up. Let's just say we're punching up, folks. If you'd like to do an anonymous one-time donation or set up recurring payments on PayPal, we're only raising another $5,475 by May 1st. No big deal. Please check us out on minds.com/smashomash, the social media network that will not censor you or throttle your content. You will get actual views. Nobody will shadow ban you here at Minds. You won't be censored. You won't be shadow banned. Also, check us out on Twitter. We put up a music video yesterday. Let me pause the music that's playing to give you a tidbit.
We have made sure that we move to a different continent to prevent American capitalist pigs from finding our location. Perhaps now you will heed our warning and watch every video in its entirety. Boko Harambe.
This track is called Power Bait, and you can find it at soundclick.com/goldencatproductions. Also check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/smAsho. Facebook is not allowing keyboard shortcuts, and for that, we think your software sucks. Sorry, Mark, your software sucks. Check out the smashomash.org site. It's just a clone of smashomash.com, but we made sure we bought the .org as we're planning on doing a lot of things. And here's the mission: to assist, study, and report on the ongoing formation of a unified theory of physics, to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space, weather, and Earth effects, to connect and consult with media organizations to multiply our reach, to demonstrate cutting-edge proof-of-concept solutions to problems, such as growing tomatoes indoors over the winter, to publish scientific papers in a multidisciplinary manner, including various sciences, to assist mankind advancing the study of predictive phenomena in order to optimize value, reduce risk and liability, save lives and resources, and adapt, no matter what the adversity is. Nothing is impossible, folks. It's just that some things are kind of hard. And I've been doing the hardest things I could find since about 1983 when I took up skateboarding, and I haven't stopped. Last but not least, in the mission statement is to not be ossified in our beliefs and to treat those who are with love, respect, and inclusion to the scientific discussion. As clueless people are people too, folks. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar courtesy of AccuWeather.com. And we see some pretty strong storms over Texas once again. For you new viewers out there, check out lightningmaps.org if you want to see what's going on above your head. It looks like we have some pretty significant lightning in Arkansas here. So let's zoom in and show you how this works. Now, if you are in the Clarksville area, this lightning's probably going to miss you because this storm is going to be heading in this direction. But you may see lightning, you may hear lightning. It is a little bit hilly, but this is a valley, so you're probably hearing thunder. And if you use this site, you zoom in sufficiently, you will actually be able to see the predicted sound waves. So there's the different stations, lightningmaps.org. We don't do bike races in severe thunderstorms, and you shouldn't do much of anything outside in severe thunderstorms, as lightning strikes are a fantastic way to get killed. So there we just had a big series of strikes all at once. Was it a sprite coming from the ionosphere? Who knows? If anybody's got clear skies, please leave a comment. Next, we'll look at the water vapor map, just to show you what's going on in the upper atmosphere. We'll get the maximum loop here. And we see a major convergence zone happening there over Texas once again. Massive line of convergence. We'll zoom in on it in one moment. And there's your zoom in. We see Hall currents galore. And we see some just violent interactions here between dry air and wet air. It looks like these storms are going to start to curve to the east and stop moving so far north as that moist air is butting up against some dry air. So Louisiana and Arkansas, you're in the crosshairs. This is going to last for quite a while. Also, Missouri, get ready, because that's headed your way. Let's move on. We do have the cosmic ray links in the description. If you like the music, head to SoundCloud Also, links in the description there. There's the SoundCloud page. Check it out. Golden Cat Productions, that's our record label. All the music's original on this site called Conclusivity. And it is available for purchase. Add it to your MP3 collection. 99 cents, folks. 99 cents. Or stream it for free. Look at climate change. How about the last 542 million years? Now, I would like to note something. And what I'd like to note is this region right here. See that? That's the Antarctic glaciation. So if you're worried about the ice caps melting, let me just drop some knowledge on you. Antarctica glaciated when the planet was 3 degrees Celsius warmer than it is now. Did you get that? Did you catch that? Let me reiterate. Antarctica formed when the planet was 3 degrees Celsius warmer than it currently is. I would also direct you to this area, which is the Milankovitch cycles. And as you can see, for the last couple million years, the planet's average temperature has been lower than it is currently. Okay? Let that sink in, folks. If you're a new viewer, if you're a climate denier, and you have no clue what you're talking about things like atmospheric physics, latency of heat in the Earth's oceans, solar forcing, magnetic fields effects on the jet stream, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you, except here's the facts. Please don't ignore them. Let's look at climate change over the last 15,000 years. There you go. If your SUV is raising the Earth's temperature, there's the extent to which it's raised the Earth's temperature. By the way, it's not, since carbon dioxide isn't a greenhouse gas. Not in the context of Earth weather, at least. Don't hit us with the argument that Venus is proof that CO2 is a greenhouse gas, because the implications of CO2 in Venus's atmosphere has nothing to do with the Earth's atmosphere, as the Earth's atmosphere is primarily composed of nitrogen. If you think CO2 makes the planet warmer, here's the record over the last 600 million years. According to ice core data, and this one is plotting temperature change with atmospheric CO2. As you can see, atmospheric CO2 has been at nearly 3,000. So if you're worried about it being at 400 or 500, or I'd prefer 600 actually, as it would make it easier to grow plants and increase crop yields over the entire planet. By the way, yes, today I did drink coffee. And whether or not I drink coffee has nothing to do with how hyperactive I am. Let's just look at some more global warming data here, since the planet's so hot that it's cold. And there are a bunch of idiots out there that are going to try to tell you that the Arctic heated up so much that it made the rest of the planet cold. And that's not even how atmospheric physics works. Now, if you would like to know, this is the snow depth, by the way. If you would like to know how hot the planet is, what you've got to do is go to places like this and measure the ocean temperature at 3 meters and at 300 meters. And we're not doing that. You know why? Because we can't. Actually, we can, but it would be very expensive. So when you look at satellite data that's informing you of what the sea surface temperature is, keep in mind that it's irrelevant. And by the way, check out northern Canada. Actually, I should say Western Canada. How much snow is that, folks? How much snow? Look at the graph. That's 9 feet of snow. It's a late spring, just like it was last year. It's now April 24th. And yeah, there are a lot of areas here that are unable to plant things because there's snow on the ground and it's frozen. So apparently it's so hot that it's cold. And for those of you concerned about Greenland melting, look at the freaking image. Look at the image, let it sink in. I've made sure there's no music playing during this section, so the gears of your brain can turn and understand that Greenland has 9 feet of snow from coast to coast. If that's melting, what would freezing be considered? Cut me a break. Global warming my ass. Here's a snow cover. There you go. There's the Rutgers daily snow extent as of 2 days ago. Oh my gosh, the planet's burning up. You better stop emitting CO2 and start paying your taxes, so idiots who know nothing about climatology can claim that you're destroying the planet with your carbon dioxide. Personally, I prefer more carbon dioxide, not less. Carbon dioxide is not and never was the, quote, control knob, end quote, to the climate. Here's Arctic sea ice thickness and extent. Rather, thickness and volume, as well as extent. Read them and weep. I would also note that this area right here, that's 5 meters of ice. See that? 5 meters of ice. 5 meters. That's over 15 feet of ice, for those of you not familiar with metric to English conversions. Shout out to the Oppenheimer Ranch channel and Magnetic Reversal News. Diamond, aka David Moriello, suggested this. We ordered them last year and we didn't receive them till this year. We just got 1 pound of Jerusalem artichoke tubers, and we're going to be planting this perennial plant as a form of permaculture. Yes, been practicing permaculture for years myself, and that's one of the reasons why those channels resonate with us. So check out all of our officially endorsed channels at youtube.com/smAsho. And if you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do so and support the channel in any possible way that you can. We're not tanking over here, we're growing, but we invite you to get in on the ground level before things go behind a paywall, because it's going to happen. Let's look at a hilarious article, as we are huge critics of lousy software. So, Apple, we laugh and laugh and laugh at your hardware. Now let's laugh and laugh and laugh at your software. I don't know why I'm on that. Okay, so an 18-year-old New Yorker by the name of Bon? What's his name? Anyway, an 18-year-old New Yorker is suing Apple for $1 billion. Why? Because they can't write facial recognition software. So for those of you who are using it to unlock your phone, you may want to switch to a simple PIN number. What happened was he was charged with multiple robberies or thefts. When the New York Police Department detective who was assigned to the case examined surveillance footage, they found the suspect looked nothing like Ba. Instead, the detective found that Apple's highly flawed security technology had been using facial recognition to try and identify suspected thieves. So, Apple, ha ha, you are so dumb. Your hardware is as crappy as your software. See you in court. Here's another Zero Hedge article. Russia unveils sub with nuclear tsunami doomsday drones. Yeah, that's right. They've invented some submarine drones designed to intentionally inflict a tsunami as a weapon of war. There are links in the description if you want to read the article. Next, let's look at some interesting X-ray observations revealing insights into the pulsar wind nebula, known as 3C58. You won't find this on the transients analysis page, folks. Another interesting article about a pulsar wind nebula, recommended for further reading if you're into the most cosmological nerd stuff. Here's a complete nonsense article on Universe Today, where we took some BS and we heaped a bunch of nonsense on top of that, and we tied it up with a bow of complete crap. You could travel through a wormhole, but it's slower than going through space. If you'd like to lose a few IQ points, please read this article. Let me read a quote for you, because this is one of the dumbest studies I've ever heard. Oh, while they found that it's theoretically possible for light to traverse a theoretical object known as a wormhole, which has never been observed to exist, they are not exactly the cosmic shortcut that we were all hoping them to be. As Jaffrus explained in an AIP press statement, it takes longer to get through these wormholes than to go directly, so they're not very useful for space travel, especially since they don't exist. The real import of this work is its relation to the black hole information problem. The problem is that the black hole information paradox, something also not observed to exist, that astrophysicists have been struggling and wasting their time with since 1975, when Stephen Hawking discovered that black holes, another theoretical thing that's never been observed, have a temperature and they slowly leak radiation. Well, who would have thought a giant fountain, which acts nothing like a vacuum, leaks radiation? I guess everybody who understands cosmology. Anyway, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance, folks, because articles like this and stupid studies about non-existent nonsense are going to stop coming out soon, and we're going to get back into real science as physics gets rewritten. So don't worry about wormholes. They don't exist, and you can't travel through them, what with the non-existence and all. Let's look at some more custom views of the sun and open up the chat and get out of here, as there is a lot of stuff to do. A lot of actual stuff to do, not studying a bunch of BS that doesn't exist. Let's look at 171 angstroms. And this is about 9 hours of solar activity. I'll just leave it there, then you can see the date stamps. I always watch these videos myself on a larger screen. We do see a little bit of activity right here. So that's something to keep an eye on throughout the day. And when I say eye on, the pun was intentional. Again, if you haven't pressed that like button, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Come on, YouTube. There you go. So thanks again, everybody, for joining the live stream. I'll be opening the chat if it ever loads. Oh, you're going to use the steel bike for the time trial because of the magnetic advantage. Is that because the sun is going to cause your bike to be lighter or something? Das Velo, I love your commentary. You think you're faster than me too, so you know, I would invite you to do the kind of race that I'm going to be doing. as my fitness has improved by leaps and bounds over the last month. So my climbing has improved too. I do a brutal climb every Tuesday up to the sponsor shop. So you think you're faster than me, but you have no idea because you probably don't know anything about me. So cheers. Good luck in your time trial tonight. What's the length? Incidentally, I don't have training partners anymore because it's too much trouble. There's a colored magnetogram. Talk about a depressing, boring disc. We are out of here, folks. So thanks for tuning in. Please support the channel in any way you see fit, as we are growing in a lot of ways that are not evident from our daily live streams. Check out our older videos. Put up a music one yesterday called Power Bait. And remember, when you're staring at the sun, don't drink. And if you drink, stare at the sun. Understand the physics. And don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your arteries.